Way back in 2005, really, we began to think that possibly children in Key Stage 3 weren't getting really the curriculum that they needed. And we felt that the pupils who were being churned out of the school at the other end in the sixth form perhaps lacked independence and resilience as learners. So in 2010, we narrowed from 27 departments to 9 learning areas. As successful futures approached, unbeknown to us, we'd already made a further leap in our minds through what we call the iLearn curriculum. And we, therefore, narrowed to 6 learning areas, as we call them in the school. I communicate, which includes English, modern foreign languages and Welsh. I calculate, which includes maths, computing and information technology. I discover, which is science and technology. I think, which is humanities. I create, which is expressive arts. And I thrive, which is health and well-being. The cue was given to teachers here to do what they needed to do to make the curriculum relevant. When you really drill down into the sort of learning experiences that have now emerged from iLearn, the best of those experiences are simply matching what best teachers would always have done. Why wouldn't you, when planning a scheme of work or a sequence of lessons, why wouldn't you want to engage pupils with authentic learning experiences that were actually grounded in national themes, global themes, and sometimes highly local themes with which they can engage. But we think it's now crucially important to explore the links between learning areas. So for instance, if I think is looking at a global issue such as global warming, it's important maybe that a subject like I Discover, science and technology, is looking at some of the more scientific aspects that sit behind maybe some of the ethical considerations around sustainability and so on. So we're looking now, we're moving into the next phase and looking at the links between departments and learning areas rather than just a coherence within them. It's been crucially important for our staff to go through the experience of creating the curriculum that they now own. And that is an absolutely crucial point that I would want to be putting across, because they have valued the opportunity to sit down, often with colleagues they've hardly met before in this very large school because they're teaching in different subject areas, and to forge the links. There were sceptics at the outset when historians and geographers and RE teachers sat down together, for instance, for the very first time. You had the predictable skirmishing within those areas to get their piece of the action. But we quickly learnt and we quickly got past that to the point where staff realised that actually they were reaching for something that was beyond a thematic approach, and that they could actually enhance their subjects by offering what they identified as their subject in a more authentic context. You have to be mindful that there are real people in real jobs sitting at the end of your decisions. So I'd like to think that the strategy we pursued was sensitive to both of those extremes. And we were determined that in the future, moving forward, anybody who had anything at this school in terms of promotion would be a leader of pedagogy. So we introduced people like lead practitioners, and the whole emphasis was on teaching and learning in this school from that time forward. If you're going to pursue an initiative like this, I think it's important that you don't slavishly stick to one iteration or an idea, because sometimes, schools are very different, and I think sometimes schools find themselves in slightly different contexts, and therefore I think it's important for school leaders not to beat themselves up over the fact that they may not be perfectly aligned with one particular vision, but actually make the thing work in their school. And we did it over time. I don't think this thing can be achieved overnight, and yet you shouldn't have to wait for decades for it, because children only have one chance, and if you believe in something, then you should usher in the future as quickly as you possibly can. My message to other head teachers would be simply this, that the role of the head teacher in this process is to identify those staff that you can really trust with this reform, and then demonstrate that trust by allowing them a great deal of freedom in planning what they are going to be teaching. Looking back, there's not a great deal we would have done differently. If anything, I probably would have pushed it more quickly than I did. The easy bit of leading this, as I've suggested, was allowing people the creativity to innovate and come up with what they wanted to. I suppose the difficult bit was being the leader of the school and saying, no, we will do this thing, come what may. And then as a leader, you shoulder the responsibility for the personnel and the HR issues that kind of come in on the back of that. You know, I don't see that as a burden. I see that as part of leadership.